Okay, so now I want to make sure we, are respectful of everybody's time. So thank you so much. If people start joining in later on, um, you guys are more than welcome. I'll put it in the chat box. But today's presenter is Noemi Valenzuela. She is from EECU and she has a presentation called Money Wise, which is going to be really good because we're always looking for opportunities to tell people about financial literacy, make it in a more, conversational, more interactive platform. So hopefully people, if you feel comfortable, you could ask questions throughout the presentation, put it in the chat box, but Noemi won't be able to start this. So I'll be in the background, but if any questions come up, I'll give you a heads up. Noemi.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Martha. All right. Okay, so just to introduce myself, as Marta mentioned, my name is Noemi Valenzuela. I am representing EECU, but what we're really here for is just to talk about finances and giving you tidbits, right? Money-wise, budgeting, and so a little bit of my background. I'm originally from the North Valley. I grew up in Los Baños, very small town at the time. I now live in Fresno, but just growing up, the reason I bring this up is just growing up, both my parents worked out in the fields and the packing houses for most of my life. And so we were very limited on money growing up. But one thing, though, is that really stood out to me, right, is that we didn't have conversations about budgeting at home. It was kind of like my parents were, focusing on living day to day, like a lot of families are. And I think this conversation kind of just slipped through the cracks, right? And I'm not saying this to put my parents down, by no means. They were trying to survive, right? Putting food on the table. So again, we didn't have these conversations at home. And so I ended up just learning the hard way. And that's what I'm here for today, right? That's what I'm so passionate about, just financial literacy, is just to share tidbits, right? If we just kind of have this base of knowledge from the very get-go, I think it really helps as we go into adulthood, especially as you're, going into your professional life. So again, also I have my personal life. I have my husband and I have 3 children. We have a blended family. My older son is now living on his own. And then I have a daughter who is first year in high school. And then I have a 6th grader. So just early on, right, just telling you that background, my parents would say, tienes que estudiar, you have to study. It's like, break that cycle. Don't be working out in the field. That's a lot of work, right? Try to do something more for yourself. And I did. I ended up going to Fresno State. I did graduate from Fresno State. And so I got my degree. I was a very good student, but again, I didn't have that financial base, so I messed up financially. And it took me a long time to come back from that, right? Just not knowing. So again, these are the tidbits that we're gonna talk about today. All right, so we're gonna go into money-wise budgeting. So let me share my screen. Here we go. All right. So again, we're gonna talk money-wise budgeting. So it's like adulting, but with healthy spending habits. And I think that's the key, right? Just trying to manage our money, our day budgeting. All right, so first things first, when we're talking about finances, and even your personal life, your academics, right? We have to have goals. What is our major goal, right? What do we, in terms of finances, maybe there's a certain point in your life that you want to have so much saved up. Maybe you want to buy a house by a certain time, a car, a vacation, whatever it may be, right? We have to have a goal and it has to be very specific. The next one is we have to make a plan. What's the map going to look like? And it's going to be different for everybody. And that's totally okay. And then the final thing, the most important, make it happen. Don't just talk about it. Don't just write it down. No, do it. Take that step. And a lot of people get stuck on this one. Right? They're like, okay, well, I don't think I'm ready yet, or I'm kind of afraid. No, let's do it, right? Let's take that leap, and you will never know what it's like until you take that first step. And I think it's very, very important. All right. So what are the 3 types of goals? And again, you may have heard of this in other parts of your life, your academics especially, but they're short-term, medium-term, and long-term. And we'll get into those, right? How they relate to finances. So the first one we're going to focus on is short-term goal. So this is a goal you may have within the next 6 months. Right? In terms of finances, it's referred to as budgeting. And why? Because typically as an adult, you pay your bill months to month. You pay all your bills, most of your bills month to month, right? So we have the cell phone bill, gas, right? If you're driving around, you have to budget for the gas. Even if it's an electrical car, you still have to charge it. That's going to cost you, right? We have to budget for it. The Netflix, rent, mortgage, right? All these are monthly bills that typically we have to pay, again, month to month. So again, that's the short term. Then there's the medium term. So the medium term goal is a goal you may have within the next 12 months to 5 years. In terms of budgeting or in terms of finances, it's referred to as saving. So my question to you, what are some things that you may save for? You can put it in your chat, put it in the chat, or just open your mic, whatever you're comfortable with. But let me know, right? What are some things that you may want to save for? And again, going back to the medium term, this would be something like big ticket items in life, right? Maybe it's a car, maybe it's a house. All right, we have one that, yeah, thank you, Judith. A house, yeah. These are big ticket items, and a house is going to be a lot more than what we probably get paid per year, right? And it's again, it's going to take a process. It's going to we're going to have to plan for this, right? My son's college fund, yeah, for sure, right? Another one, it's going to be a process. Most of us don't have the money from one day to the next when it's referring to his medium-term goals. Again, big ticket items. Thank you, Judith. All right, the next one, right? We talked about medium term, then there's long term. So now we're thinking a little more in the future, right? More than 5 years from now. So in terms of finances, it's referred to as investing in your future, or the 401k, retirement, pension, whatever that may be, right? So it's pretty much you laying down the foundation for your future self, right? Kind of like generational wealth. And these are things that we have to think about, right? I know that we survive day by day. Hopefully, you know, after this, after these sessions, that it'll help to kind of look at it from a big picture and say, hey, you know what? We can do this, right? It can be done. But again, long term. So these are questions you have to ask, especially going into that career that you want, or you know, whatever your goal may be, is ask the question, what's in it for me, right? We're not just talking medical benefits, we're not just talking your basics. No, we're talking like financial, like investing. So what can happen is maybe you find that job depending on the company you're with or the type of career that you have. But sometimes what they offer is a 401k, right? So that means that every single time you get paid, what they're doing, the company that you work for, is taking a certain percentage out of your paycheck and dropping it into an investment account. The theory, the idea behind this is that eventually, you know, because you're investing, eventually you're going to reach, your money's going to grow for you, right? That's the theory. But again, when you're ready to retire, this money then becomes yours. Same thing if you're, you know, if you're going through education, right? Maybe a teacher, an administrator, right? They have the pension, which is kind of the same concept. But by the time you're in your late 60s, you have the option to retire, right? You don't have to work anymore, but we have to make sure that we have enough saved up so we can live comfortably when we're ready to retire. And that's the whole point, right? And I told you early on that my parents, for most of my life, worked out in the fields and packing houses. But by the time I was in high school, my mom got a job at the school district I was at. And so I would see that, you know, she when she got that job, I knew she was getting paid a lot more compared to where she was at before. But I didn't see the difference at home. And of course, coming from a traditional household, right, you didn't ask the question. No seas metiche, right? Don't ask the question. Know your role. Do what you need to do. Go to school. Don't ask questions about finances. And so I never did. But I would hear conversations, you know, and my mom would talk about saving money. And I used to think to myself, why are you saving money now if we need it? Like I would see my parents struggling just to put food on the table sometimes, right? Or just trying to pay those bills. So I didn't really understand it. But you fast forward 30 years later, she was able to retire, right? She was able to retire from her job. So now that she's retired, she's getting paid more now than she was when she was working, right? And how does that work? Well, she was thinking ahead, right? When she got that good paying job, she was thinking, okay, one, I don't want to have to depend on anybody. Two, I want to eventually retire and I want to be comfortable. And three, she was thinking not only of my dad, who's still working seasonal, right, out in the field sometimes, but because she has, you know, she knew she was going to have to take care of him. His retirement is very little, if any. And she was also thinking of me, right? Generational wealth. So she was thinking so much in the future. She was like, okay, well, I want to put so much away. I want to have enough for my retirement so I don't have to depend on anybody. Now, if my parents were to come to me, right? If all of a sudden I have to take care of my parents, which I would love to, right? But if they come to me already financially stable, that's going to make my life that much easier. And that's what this is about, right? Just laying down that foundation and not only thinking of yourself, but also generational wealth, thinking of your family. So again, goals we have to have, right? I know I went into a more of a tangent in there, but more into detail. But again, just giving you that idea. All right, so my question to you, if I told you today, which I have to say out loud, no, we're not giving away $1,000, okay? But the idea, if you were to get $1,000 today, what would you do with that money? And you can put in the chat, open your mic, whatever you're comfortable with. I have someone say pay bills. Yeah, right. Okay, someone said travel. For sure. So these are all things that we would do with $1,000. And the reason I ask questions, there's no right or wrong question, but the reason I ask that question is because early on, right, the very first thing we learn when we're growing up is how to spend money, right? But we're not taught how to save it. So anytime you get money, right, anytime, pay yourself first. And I'm not even saying, for example, the $1,000. If you were to get $1,000 check, I'm not saying put the whole $1,000 in a savings account. No, I'm saying maybe even $5, $10, whatever you can afford, right? Just getting into that that habit of putting something away into a savings account. And the key is leaving it there. So when we do that, we start not only to help ourselves, but we see we're going to start to build a savings account. And that's what the point is, right? Just paying yourself first. So my question to you, why is it important to save, right? Why do we talk about saving all the time? Why, especially after the pandemic, right? This has been a big topic, especially finances, personal finances, how to manage it. Why is it so important to save? Yes, very good. Yeah, emergencies, generational wealth for the future, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't. We can't predict the future. There's stuff that happens all the time. I'm using the nice S word. Stuff will happen all the time. Life will throw stuff at you all the time. Now, is money going to take care of all those problems? No, it won't, right? But it's one less thing to stress about. And again, so there's car repairs, disasters, right? We especially the floods that have been happening lately. That's affecting a lot of people in all parts of California. The pandemic, I feel like it's taking forever just to kind of come out of it, right? Even as we're coming out of it, it's affected all of us financially, and you can see it just going to the grocery store. You know, just buying, shopping. Things are super expensive now compared to what they were about 2-3 years ago before the pandemic. So again, we can't predict the future, right? Let's have some type of backup. Let's save something. Financial security, right? That's another reason to save. It just feels good to have something saved up. Like if life throws something at you, you know that you have some type of backup. You know that you're going to be able to get by. The other thing is it helps avoid financial stress and burdens, right? Just the mental health. It really helps, right? Just to have something saved up. And here's the thing too, is that just in the United States, one of the top reasons people get divorced or separated in the United States is because of financial issues, right? It takes a big toll on people, especially couples. So also it provides a safety net. If you're going through life, maybe you took the traditional route, you went, you know, you got your degree, you got that profession you were after, that goal that you had, and all of a sudden maybe you have a change of heart. Maybe you want to go back to grad school, or maybe you want to change your career, or who knows, maybe you don't want to work for a company anymore. Maybe you want to start your own business, right? These are all options if you have that backup. Again, have that, and I like to say in Spanish, right? El guardadito, that little bit saved up for you. Okay, so there's two things with that. The first thing is I want to just touch on this. So when we're having conversations about finances, not just with this presentation, this budgeting section, but just in general, when we're talking finances, when we're talking personal budgets, it's not about being rich, right? It's not. And don't get me wrong, it helps, right? It helps to pay the bills. But the thing to remember is when you are in control, when you manage your money, when you're in control of your money no longer is controlling you, right? And when you're in control, that in turn gives you freedoms. Like if you want to start a new job, maybe you want to start, go go to a new company, start your own business, you know, whatever it may be, you have the freedom to do it as long as you're in control of that money, right? So again, just a tidbit, right? Just remember that. The other thing too, when we're talking about saving, we're talking about financial security, you know, providing that safety net. A financial advisor will tell you should have anywhere saved up or enough saved up to cover your bills anywhere from 3 to 6 months. Some will even tell you should have up to a year. Now that in itself, that's a lot of money, especially in our economy today, right? That's hard. That's very, very hard, especially as a student as well. But maybe have that long-term goal, right? Maybe start with one bill. Maybe it's the cell phone, have enough saved up for that, maybe 3 to 6 months, maybe 1 month. Again, just getting your feet wet and just kind of having that in the back of our minds and have that be the ultimate goal. Is it feasible right away? Probably not, right? If it were feasible, everybody would do it. But again, just starting small, just baby steps. Okay, so when we're talking finances, we're talking budgeting, there's one thing to be aware of, and that's spending leaks. So spending leaks means pretty much you go buy something, it didn't seem like a lot of money when you went to go buy it, but if you do it on a consistent basis, it will add up. So on here I have Starbucks. I love coffee. It doesn't have to be Starbucks, but just coffee in general, right? Fast food, even check cashing places, right? If you're going to go cash your check all the time you get paid, they're charging you for that. That can ultimately or potentially turn into a spending leak, right? Also, the $25 all the time you get paid, you're paying the check cashing place, that's going to add up. So yeah, so let's focus on the Starbucks, right? In this is just for fun, right? So let's say a Starbucks coffee costs about $5 per day. So if we were to go to Starbucks every single day, that would be $30. I mean, I'm sorry, every single day for 30 days, that would be $150. So you can see, right, it didn't seem like a lot of money when we went to go pay, but it starts to add up really quickly. So 5 times 30, $150 in coffee. Now over a year, and I'm not saying Starbucks is bad by no means, right? But this is how much it costs, right? If we were to do this every single day for 1 year, $5, $1,865. So you can see how quickly that added up. And it's not just with, with coffee, it can be with fast food. It just adds up really quickly. So it's good to be aware of these, right? Know where your money is going. And how do we do that? We track and record our income and expenses. Know how much is coming into your account, know how much is leaving your account. How much are you spending? And again, once we start to really keep track of it, we start to realize like, whoa, okay, I shouldn't have spent that much money there because I could have saved that, right? So how do we start? How do we start tracking our money? And there's different ways. We're going to focus on a few of them. But again, it just depends on you, right? You have to get your feet wet and see what's going to work for you. What works for one person may not work for the other, and that's completely okay, right? Okay, so the first one, I'll go through each of these bullet points, but the first one, 50-30-20 rule, and I'll go to the spending log, envelope method, and other apps. Okay, so let's focus on this one, the 50-30-20 rule. So this is just an idea, it's a template, right, of how finances should be managed. Okay, so 50% of your income. So let's say you get $800 a month, $400 of that should be going to your needs. And tell me, like, what are some examples of some needs or some essentials, right? We heard that a lot during the pandemic. What are some needs in life that we're going to have to pay? Your basics in life. Yeah, we have utilities. We have, okay, so we have rent, PG&E, car, maybe daycare, right? All these are essentials. Food, again, all essentials, just your very basics in life. So 50% of our income should be going to that, right? Then there's 20%, I'll skip to 20%, right? 20% should be savings. So savings includes a lot. It can be the retirement that we talked about. It can include saving for an emergency fund. It could be just having that, having enough saved up to cover those bills 3 to 6 months or up to a year. It could just be putting away money just for a rainy day, just again, the emergency fund. So again, all that sits into the 20% of the savings, right? Then we have the 30% wants. So really, these are things that we don't necessarily need, but they're nice to have, right? Netflix, for example, right? Again, do we need it? No, we don't, but it's nice to have, right? It's just nice to be able to stream when we want. The other thing too is I told you that I have my son who's the sixth grader. And a perfect example of the wants, right? This is a question we need to ask ourselves. Is it a need or is it a want, especially when we're out shopping? So just recently, he wanted to play basketball. He needed shoes. He's like, Mom, I need shoes. Okay, let's go buy you some shoes. So the whole conversation was, yes, we went to go buy him shoes, but he comes back, we're at the store. He comes back with $250 shoes. Like, whoa, right? That's not in my budget. I work, I have a paycheck. I don't have $250 shoes. So again, we had to have this conversation like, yes, you need shoes. Maybe you do need shoes for basketball, but do you need $250 shoes? No, right? So we had to have that conversation again, sharing that knowledge, like need or want. Let's ask ourselves that all the time. So of course, he had to look for other shoes and that was okay. It was just having that conversation. And the same goes for us. Yes, do we need it? Probably not, but it may be a want. I don't know. It could be vice versa. There is a question in the chat. Would life insurance be a need or a savings? I'm just curious. I would say a savings, right? Because it's kind of, you're thinking of the future kind of. So I would put it, and me personally, I would categorize it as a savings. All right. Next one, right? Other ways to help build a plan. Notebook, right? So again, old school spiral notebook, just writing down everything that you're spending. And here you can see, this is an example. A student sent this to us, but you can see what they started doing. The first column is the date. What day did they spend money? Next one is the item. What did they purchase or what did they pay? The cost, how much that cost them. And then the balance after, what they were left with after they paid for whatever they paid for. So again, keeping track, right? This is kind of like a check register, I guess you can say. But again, it's keeping track in a notebook. And you can see also the little tidbit here. It's like going back to those needs and wants, right? So this person, what they did, you can see at the beginning, all these are tagged as ins. As you go to the bottom, you can see the different W's. So you can see they tagged it as needs and wants. Because they had money left over, they decided to go out and eat, which is completely fine, right? Panda Express, Starbucks, Little Caesar, just a fast food or just going out to eat. So again, needs and wants, right? This is another way to record it. I'm very visual, so this right here works for me. The other one is an envelope method. So envelope method means pretty much that every bill that you have gets written on an envelope. Okay? All the time you get paid, you put half the amount of the bill into this envelope. That means cash is going into these envelopes. So you can see your basics, right? These are pretty much the needs, rent, utilities, if you got a car loan, gas, groceries, you need to eat, cell phone, right? The pretty much the essentials. So again, the goal is that by the time you get the last paycheck of the month, you should have enough in this envelope to pay for that bill. Okay? So again, you have to just kind of balance it out, according to due dates, when your bills are due and when you get paid. But again, this is another idea, right? So it might work. The only thing with this is a few things. When you have to be careful, it's cash, right? So keep it in the safe place if you decide to go this method. The second thing is you can't pull from one envelope and put into the other. And why? Because you just threw off your budget, right? So if you're having to do that consistently, it's time to take a step back and say, where can I make some adjustments? Maybe one bill I can make some cuts or, whatever it may be. The other thing too is there's a lot of psychology behind money spending or money managing, I should say. And a lot of it has to do with the way you grew up, right? So it's kind of like a cycle. So we got to be really aware. And that's why we have these conversations, right? Be aware of just other things, other ways you can manage your money or different ways you can do it. So again, with the savings, right? If you treat it as a bill, kind of changes that mentality. It's like, okay, I need to save. It's a need. So again, if we treat it as a bill, it's a little easier to kind of save, changing the mentality again. The other thing was savings, right? So I talked about your medium-term goals, these big ticket items in life that will take a while to save up for. We don't have the money from one day to the next. So we'll make an example. If I have a savings account, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to pull $20 out. I just want to go out and eat. I just want to have some fun. I need it, right? So let's say I pull $20 out of savings. So doesn't seem like a big deal. But let's look at this in a different way, right? So we talked about the medium term again. So if I have, my personal goal is to buy a house. Okay? So I have a certain amount I have to save every month to be able to reach that goal, okay, within a year or so. So the minute that I pull out of savings, that's going to take me that much longer to get to my medium term goal, right? So I'm just kind of throwing off my budget. So again, can I pull $20 out of my savings? Yeah, I can. But remember, I had those medium term goals. So it's going to take me that much longer to get to. There's also the budget binder you can see on the screen, kind of same method, but again, it's in a budget. I'm sorry, it's in a binder. All right, so other apps, Mint and Expensify, those are other options. They're free. They link to a bank account. And again, it'll help you manage your money, right? And there's a lot of other ones. The Notes app in the iPhone also can be used as a budgeting section, and that'll help you as well. It's a little more work, but it's doable. EECU or any other bank or credit union also has their own app. And a lot of times, especially after the pandemic, there's a lot of them who have partnered up with different managing tools, money management tools. And so that can help you as well. All right, so when we're talking finances, we're talking budgeting. The most important math equation you'll ever learn, right? You're very, very basic. What you earn minus what you spend. And you saw that with the spending log or the spending journal that we had an image on the screen a little while ago. So what you earn minus what you spend, right? So let's say that you're earning more than what you're spending, right? This is a good thing. This is where we want to be. This is the goal, being in the green. Okay, so now when the opposite happens, when we're spending more than what we're earning, that means more is coming out of our account than what's actually there. This is what we want to stay away from. This is when you get into the red, right? This is when you go into debt. And granted, there's positive debt, there's negative debt. I won't get into that part, but it's just knowing how to manage, right? Yes, we probably will all go into debt at some point, but it's all about knowing how to manage and how to balance it, right? Not letting it get overwhelming that we can't pay that off. So again, going back to this, when you're spending more than what you're earning, that's going to cost you more in the long run, right? Because there's a lot of fees linked to that, especially if you're keeping your money when you have a bank account or a credit union. You will get fees for going over what you don't have. If that makes sense. So there's something that's called non-sufficient funds, which equals more fees. So let's say that you're not really keeping track of your account. You're thinking you have about $20. Not too sure. But let's say that you're at a store, and I'm gonna go with the shoes, right? You see some sneakers that are usually super expensive, but you see them at the store for super cheap. They're $19.99. You're like, that's a really good deal. Do I need this? No, I don't need it, but it's a really good deal. I shouldn't pass it up. So you're thinking, okay, well, I'm gonna try to buy them. If they go through at the register, they go through. If not, I have no problem putting them back. So you go pay. Yes, the shoes were $19.99. It goes through, right? That's the thing. So yes, the shoes were $19.99. Yes, you had $20 in your account, but you forgot to account for taxes. So you're about $4 short. So when you paid, it went through, you went home with your shoes. But what you don't realize just happened there was because of the type of account you have, where you have it. So what happened was the bank said, or the credit union said, okay, well, you don't have enough in your account to cover this, but it's all right. I got you. I'll cover you, but I'm going to charge you $35 for this. Okay, so now when you walked out of that store, not only did you not have enough money to cover those shoes, but now you owe the bank or the credit union $35. Right? So what happens when tomorrow you have your cell phone bill coming out of your account automatically, right? But you have no money. You're in the negative now. So again, the bank or the credit union might say, all right, you don't have money again, but it's all right. I got you. I'll cover you, but I'm going to charge you another $35. So you can see how quickly you can go into that debt like this, right? And people do this. Some people do this over and over, and it just creates a hole. You're going into the negative, and it's very hard to come out of, right? That's the debt that's uncontrollable. It's just not manageable. So you got to be really careful. Again, just keep track of your money, know where your money is going, how much is coming in and out. And with that, right, the golden rule, just keep this in mind. And I have to, I'll be honest, am I perfect at my finances? No, I'm not, right? I feel like I'm constantly learning, especially having these workshops. We have conversations in different ways. People talk about different ways they manage their money. So you get other ideas. But again, we all make mistakes, and that's okay. But let's remember the golden rule. And I have to repeat this to myself as well. Don't spend more than what you earn. Right? If we just keep that in mind, again, and going with that needs and wants, it's just kind of changing that mentality, that psychology behind our managing our money. So again, the golden rule, don't spend more than what you earn. Sorry. And as things change in your life, you have to adapt, right? Just like you currently adapt to your environment, the same thing with your finances, right? Maybe you have a new job, right? Maybe you have to adjust. Maybe you're living in the new apartment. It's a new bill. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less. Again, you're adjusting your finances. You're in college. Maybe you have roommates, maybe you don't. Again, you just have to adjust, right? We should always update our plan. And just a tidbit there too, on our website, just to help students, we have something that's called a college cost and compare calculator. And this is mostly for undergrad, but it gives you an idea of how much FAFSA will cover, how much you have to come up with according to what college you want to go to. And it can be any college in the nation. Again, there's a drop down, how much you get for taxes or how much your parents get for taxes, where you live, which is California. And you can search any college in the nation. It can be anywhere from an academy all the way to an Ivy League. So again, it just gives you an idea. Right? The other thing with that too, I think this is really what I like to share this slide is local scholarships, right? Scholarships are going to help everywhere you are, especially as a student. It's just free money you don't have to pay back. So, and you can use for school. So there's a list of 50 scholarships on there as well. EECU has a grant. If you have an account with us, you can apply for this student grant. It's for graduating high school students or people who are already in college. But what this does is we give out $52,000 grants every single year. So you check out our website, myecu.org, just there's my plug, right? But no, you can, it opens up in October and it closes in December. Again, this is good. This is like stuff we can take advantage of. It's going to help our budgeting, especially as a college student. It really helps. All right. Other budgeting basics, other financial information we should know. Credit unions and banks. So credit unions and banks, we offer the same thing, right? We're both financial institutions. We offer pretty much the same credit cards, savings accounts, checking accounts, any of this, right? But the way credit unions and banks work are different. So credit unions are referred to as not-for-profit. It's not to say that we don't make any money, but that money that we do make is kind of recycled. So it's put back into membership, which is people who have accounts with us. So usually at a credit union, fees will be a little more affordable compared to a bank. The other thing with credit unions also is when credit unions came together, it was a co-op was created, cooperation. So that means that let's say that I have let's say I have an EECU account, okay, and I am in the Bay Area, I'm visiting family. So if I need to get money out of an ATM, I can go to another credit union, get my $20 out, and I won't get charged, right? Why? Because credit unions work together that way. Now, if I have a bank, right, it's going to be a little different. If I have Bank A and I go to a Bank B ATM, I'm going to get charged. I'm going to get charged from Bank A and Bank B, right, for not using my own ATM. So again, you know, there's some differences. Also with banks, so they are for profit, so they have stockholders or investors, you know, just trying to say, okay, that's the main focus, is making money. But the other thing with banks too is, you know, sometimes when we're having this conversation, people say, well, if you're telling me credit unions are a little more affordable, why would people go with banks? Well, because they're banks of convenience, right? Banks are a lot larger compared to credit unions. And with the bank, you're going to see one on almost every corner, right? Even in the smallest towns, you will see one of the major banks there. So again, it's convenient. But again, you just have to make that decision. It's like, what route will you take, right? But again, can you have one or the other? Yes. Can you have both? Yes, you can have both, right? It's up to you. And I'll skip right over this. I'm sorry. So again, this is just to open an account. It's different for every bank or credit union. But again, when you open your basics, right? Checking account or savings account, those are your very, very basic. One thing to remember, whether or not you have an account at a bank or whether or not you have an account at a credit union, both of those will be insured, okay, up to a certain amount. So I know things were happening lately, especially in the Bay Area, right? I know that was top news. But again, just remember, anytime you have money saved into a bank or a credit union, that will be insured by the government up to a certain amount, right? So again, it'll always be there for you. Okay. So we talked checking and savings account. Checking is for your daily spending. A savings account is exactly for that, to save your money. Then there's a debit card and there's a credit card. Okay, so the debit card is linked to the checking account, and a credit card is kind of like borrowed money on a card, right? So a debit card, again, is for your daily spending. It's your money. The minute you run a debit card, it pulls it from your checking account. The credit card, again, is borrowed money on a card. So a credit card, you buy something now, you don't pay it till later. Again, with a credit card, you probably will pay a little bit of interest, okay? But again, that's part of the credit card process. So I told you early on that when I started my journey, right, just learning about finances, I messed up from the very get-go. And one of those reasons was a credit card. Am I saying credit cards are evil? Am I saying don't get a credit card? By no means am I saying that. I'm saying that when we start to take this route, just make sure you know the responsibilities that come with a credit card or come with managing your money in general as well. So I got a credit card. I was probably first year college student. It's not allowed anymore, but there was an institution on campus. They were like, okay, sign up for a free t-shirt. We'll give you a credit card. And I did. I signed up for a free t-shirt. I was a student, I was a college student. Anything free was good. So I did. I took the credit card. Didn't really know how it worked. But a few weeks later, I got the card in the mail. And so so what I did was I got the credit card. And I went crazy with it. I mean, that was pretty much it, right? I bought clothes I didn't need, I bought shoes I didn't need. I had 4 other roommates. I took them all to dinner, put it on this credit card. So you can imagine how quickly I went into debt, all because I didn't know the responsibilities that came with the credit card. So that situation, I was just starting off, and that situation affected me, right? And how did it affect me? It affected my credit score, right? Because I was already in debt and just starting off. So again, your credit score is like your adult GPA. So there's a range, there's a credit score range, right? So just a tidbit. So the higher the credit score, usually, right, the theory is the lower the interest rate. So again, here's the credit score range. So the lowest, and this is, it can be different with the different credit reporting agencies or, depending on the company that you look to. But in general, right, 300 would be the lowest, 850 would be the highest. And you can see, and this is also like a FICO score, they also call it that, right? But you can see all the in-betweens. Now, like the average credit score in the United States, right after the pandemic was 698. It's changed since then. I haven't updated the number, but let's say that you had 698 or higher, that would be pretty good, right? And not too bad. Now, if you had 585 or below, you might run into some problems. So again, just, when we're talking about budgeting, and I bring this up because when you don't pay your bills on time, when we don't pay our bills on time, we make them late, that affects our credit score. That's why it's so important to budget, right? And a credit score will affect almost everything we do as an adult. And we have to be really careful. That's why we have to try to manage our money. All right, so when we're talking credit score, there's also credit report. So the credit report is like an adult transcript. So all your history, all your financial history, pretty much, a lot of personal information will also be on the credit report. So it's always good to check what's on there, right? One thing that a lot of people don't realize is, again, going back to this whole credit, the credit history that you have. If you want to open a cell phone under your name, they'll probably check your credit. If you want to rent an apartment, they'll probably check your credit. If you want to open a PG&E account for that apartment, they'll probably check your credit. Especially too, if you're looking to get, to go into a certain career, a lot, especially in the financial institution, what they'll do is they'll do a background check, and in that background check, they may check your credit score. So again, just be aware of that, right? Because it's going to affect you. So if you go into this job, you have the right degree, you have the right experience. And what happens if you have a low credit, this other person has a low credit score, you have the high credit score, right? They're most likely going to give you the job because you have the high credit score. So just to keep that in mind, right? Okay. So how do we check our credit report? You can go to these 3 agencies, one of these 3 agencies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. These are the main credit reporting agencies in the United States. There's a lot of small ones in between, but these are generally the ones that banks and credit unions look to pull their information. We recommend, most financial institutions recommend that you pull a credit report once a year, right? That's free. It doesn't charge you to pull once a year. And you can pull from one of these every single year. Annualcreditreport.com also, that'll pull your credit report for you. It'll pull it from all these 3. Okay? So again, just tidbits, right? Know what's on there, right? It's really important. Why would I say that? Why would you think that it'd be important to check your credit report? Right, because we don't know what's on there. One, it's important to know, especially if we're going into a job or something, right? Let's know the background that's on there. The other thing too is, someone mentioned if you're trying to get a loan for a car or a house, they're going to be looking at that. So it's always good to know what's going on, know what's in there, right? Maybe you have debt that you didn't know about. It's important to check it. The other thing too is just fraud. It happens, right? It's good to know what's on there, because if there's fraud or someone's using your social security or someone's using your personal information, the very first place you're probably going to find it is on a credit report. I also got a question in the chat. If you check your score a lot, your credit score, does the number go down? Yes. If you're trying to get a loan from someone and all of a sudden you're like, okay, let me go here, and there, right? And they're each pulling your credit report, yes, or your credit score, yes, it'll hurt you. If it's only one, it's not very much, right? But again, if you go overboard, it will. That's when you see it'll affect you, or it'll affect your score. Okay. So all in all, right, when we're talking about finances, we're talking about just budgeting in general. If anything, right, remember the golden rule. Don't spend more than what you earn, right? Is this always easy? No, it's not, because I know life happens, right? But that's why we have this conversation. Just, again, trying to change the psychology behind the money spending, behind the money management. I think it really helps. And just ask yourself, right? Is it a need or is it a want? My family, we have this conversation all the time. I ask myself all the time, is it a need or is it a want? I just had lunch earlier. I was with a coworker and we had this conversation. We went out to lunch, we each paid for our lunch, but was it a need? It wasn't a need, it was really a want. And we were both sitting there like, we really shouldn't be spending this money. Granted, yes, it was a small fee, but still, we were having this conversation. All right. I know there was a lot of information I just threw at you, but what questions do you have for me? And I'll stop sharing my screen. Let me see. There we go. Again, a lot of information.
This was a great presentation, Noemi. You really
Thank
broke
you.
it down into like simple terms of how to create that budget. Because I think that's really, what a lot of students do ask us, like, what does a budget really look like? And it looks a little different for everybody's circumstances, but this was like a really good, step-by-step guide. So we really appreciate your presentation. I did put in the chat box our money management center. So we also have something very similar to what you might have, but ours is called Unleashed Money Portal.
Oh, yeah.
So this is available to all Fresno State students and alumni, that they could go and use a budgeting tool as well. So they could enter their income, their expenses, what they're saving for, and some of their goals. So again, please check out our website because it has really great resources as well. Yeah, I think people are just saying that has been really helpful in the chat box. So we really appreciate it. And again, we'll have this recording on our website in a couple of days as well.
Awesome. Okay. And I just reading the chat. It says, I like the budget binder idea. Literally just bought one on Amazon. That's awesome. I love it. And like I said, it's about knowing how to managing your money and controlling your money. That way, the opposite doesn't happen, right? Your money is not controlling you. And again, when we do this, and this is why we have these workshops, right? You can see it even on the website. It does. This is your financial base. This is what's going to help you in the future. And are you going to be perfect at it? No. I do these financial literacy classes all the time. Am I perfect? No, I'm not. And I don't claim to be. But again, this is going to be a learning process. We just got to get our feet wet and see what works for us. And that in turn will help us in the future.
Noemi, I think we do have a question in the Q&A. So it says, what documents do you need to open a credit card?
So for a credit card, it can be different for different financial institutions, but the main thing is when you have to be 18 and you have to have some sort of income. And I believe it's a government ID. It just depends on the bank or the credit union where you're getting that credit card from. That was a good question. All right. All right, if there isn't any more questions.
No more questions. Yeah. So I think, oh wait, I think there might be another one.
Okay.
Oh no, just they say thank you or have another one. Let's see it.
Oh, so then maybe they do have another question.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Now's the time. Take advantage.
Yes, we have until 1 o'clock. Oh, there's one in the chat box, a question.
Okay, let's see. Can I open an EECU credit card online or in person? Which is the better option? You can start the process online. You can do that online. They will eventually, you probably will have, well, no, they probably will contact you once you apply for it online, and you can go from there. That way you're not having to make extra trips with the things that you may need. And then there was another question. If I work at school, how do I show proof that I work on campus? I believe it's kind of like the form that you fill out for your taxes. You can use that. You can even use a paycheck, like a paycheck stub, or once it comes into your account, like an image of that as well. So I'm going to add to that, Marta. So we're talking credit cards, and I want just the tidbit, right? This is nothing to do with the presentation, but if we're looking to get a credit card, I know there's some questions on it. When you get a credit card, I'm not a financial advisor by no means, but if you're looking to get a credit card, I would suggest go with your bank or your credit union, like someone you have an account with or someone you have history with. Because a lot of people will try to start their credit and get a credit card from a department store. A lot of times, if you go with the department store, start your credit that way. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. But that long-term, how much it's going to cost you long-term, it will be more expensive. Like your interest rate will probably be a lot more with a credit card from a department store compared to a credit card with the bank or a credit union. So your fees at the end of it all will be more with the store credit card. So just be careful. Yeah, higher rates. Yeah, so just be aware of that, especially if you're wanting to start, if you're starting off or you're looking to open a credit card, just be really careful of that. Read your fine print. Again, even with whatever credit card you get, because there could be fees associated with it. There could be a different interest rate from the beginning, and you just got to be careful. Just read your fine print. Ask a lot of questions.
These were really good questions, everybody. So anybody doesn't have any more questions, then I'm going to stop the recording. And then really this will conclude